Hello everybody, what's up? Today we're gonna do my best of 2012 list. And I know everybody does these and you know, I like watching them. I watch like channels I'm not subscribed to. If they come up, someone like click the thumbs up. I watched everybody's like best of 2012 list that I had an option to watch, and I just like them, even though like a lot of people have very similar lists. And I'm not saying my list is like super special, but and there are a lot of games in the list that other people had on their list too. But it's also unique in that I have a lot of stuff that wasn't released in the U.S. in 2012 or outside of Japan in 2012, and just some stuff that I didn't see anybody talk about. So, well, I guess what we'll start with is I have like a couple honorable mentions for 2012, and I'm gonna mention them in the list because they're like they're games that I would, yeah, had they not been like what they are, would have definitely been higher in the list, high like in the list at all actually. But we've got Persona 2 Batsu, which is Eternal Punishment. Um, this is I love this game. It was a great game. I loved playing through it. I had a ton of fun with it. The reason it's not on the list is because it's it's a pretty direct port. I mean, there's some additional voice acting, I think, and there's a couple of additional story elements, like a small kind of like side story that goes on. But other than that, it's a pretty straight port of the original. So it's too much of a port to like actually consider it like a new game for 2012. Even though this was released in 2012, it's just like a straight up port. So with like some slight extras in there. So I would have put it in the list. It's a great game, but you know, port. And the next one also, same thing. Soul Hackers on the 3DS. Great game. I enjoyed a lot, but this one is even more of a straight up port than Persona 2. And I'm going to sneeze. And I sneezed. But I'm not going to edit that out because I'm lazy. So, Soul Hackers, this is a more of a straight up port than Persona 2 in that there's almost no additional content. There's full voice acting, which is completely new. But beyond that, all the new content is stuff that was bonus content previously that you had to like win specially. So it's kind of rare bonus content. So it's nice that it's in there, but it's not new per se. So again, this was a great game. When it comes out, it's coming out in the US pretty soon, a couple months, I guess. Pick it up, it's great. It's a good game. First person dungeon crawler. I love those. So if you're interested, and this is probably the best Soul Hackers game. Well, not Soul Hackers, a Devil Summoner game. So check it out when it comes out. But again, straight up port. And the last one is Dark Souls, and this is the Artorias of the Abyss edition, which is like the Prepare to Die edition on PC. And you can see, this is the one. I did an unboxing for it. It comes with a book and stuff, but again, this Dark Souls came out in 2011, and although the new content is new, it's got new content. It's not, but it's again, like Persona 2, it's not enough new content to consider it a new game for 2012. But it did come out in 2012, and I did play this probably more than almost anything. So Dark Souls, but yeah. So let's get into the list proper. So we'll talk about my, I guess I don't really want to number them, but there are actually 10 games, so it's 10 games. So we'll say number 10 is Binary Domain. And you're going to notice something about this list. Sega really rules this list. There's a lot of Sega games in here. But this one was a surprise for me. I bought it strictly because the Yakuza team made it, and I'm not a huge fan of third-person shooters, or I mean, I don't like first-person shooters almost at all, but third-person shooters I'm more tolerant of. I play a couple, and I figured the Yakuza team made it. It's probably pretty good. And I was actually a little worried because after playing um, Yakuza Dead Souls, I keep want to say of the end because that's the Japanese name. But the Dead Souls and the shooting being so poor. It was, I guess it wasn't poor. It was just mediocre. But this game, it's hard to actually believe that these same people made it because this one is actually quite good. Cover mechanics are cool, and the kind of dismemberment of the robots is kind of awesome. And I like the characters, and the story is interesting, and the world is interesting. I like the kind of future dystopian cyberpunk thing going on that it has, and it's quite interesting. I like this game more than I liked playing Gears of War, and I played Gears and I didn't really get into it. So, but I liked this game a lot, and I like the world and I like the characters way more than almost any third-person shooter I can think of. And the team really didn't let me down on this one, which is good. So, Binary Domain, it's kind of, man, it should have sold a lot more than it did. I think, like, you know, it's never gonna get a sequel, and it's like games get like a platinum release. Like this game didn't go platinum. It went like wood, but you you should play it if you get a chance. It's probably really cheap now. You could probably get it for $15 or $20. So, pick it up. If you like third-person shooters, you'll like this game. If you like cool cyberpunk worlds in the somewhat near future, you'll like this. It's good. So, yeah, go for it. Binary Domain. And next, we're gonna move on to another thing involving Sega. But this one, it's not made by Sega. It's actually made by Namco, and that is Project Cross Zone. And Project Cross Zone, it's fun. It's kind of strategy RPG, and it's like full of goofy fan service for fans of Capcom and Namco and Sega. But it actually could have been higher on the list if they had done a few more things that were a little interesting. So like, at first, the system is the battles go pretty quickly. Like, it actually fixed a lot of the problems that Namco Cross Capcom had, in that like the battles took way too long. And in this case, they cut out the enemy animations for the battles. So like, you only see the animations when you attack and not when the enemy attacks, which makes things a lot quicker actually. And that's a bonus. And there's a lot more characters, and the story is kind of convoluted and makes little sense like the other games in the series. But it does kind of suffer towards the end of like the same thing that Namco Cross Capcom suffered from, which was that kind of this setup again, again, and it keeps doing that over and over again. So like, you get a little bored towards the end. But not to say that it's not fun. I like the entire game I played through, and it took a long time. I don't remember, 60 or 70 hours. It took a long time. But it's fun. But it gets a little repetitive towards the end. And if it were any longer, I probably would have been like hating on it more. But it's actually a pretty good game. So number 9, not a bad place for Project Cross Zone here. But yeah, let's move on. So number 8 here is another 3DS game, another one that I had a lot of fun with. Cota Princess. Now, Cota Princess, it's a lot like, of course, Guardian Heroes everyone mentions, but it's more like Princess Crown, if you've ever played that. It's got less kind of RPG elements than Guardian Heroes, in that you can't really choose your path. I mean, you can minimally for some characters. You get like a slightly different story, but almost everybody has the exact same missions. So it's not like Guardian Heroes where you can like really change what you're doing in the story. There's not. It's pretty linear, but not that that's bad. I mean, not every game has to be not linear, but the fighting is fun. The characters are interesting. It's kind of goofy, and it's kind of a, I don't know, play on the traditional kind of RPG elements of a game, which is cool. I enjoy it. And, it's a solid kind of 2D on a 3D, three plane beat 'em up thing. So, you can't really go wrong with Cota Princess if you like beat 'em ups. And if you, I mean, it's not like, I wouldn't say, if you like action RPGs, this is probably not going to fulfill like a kind of RPG story kind of thing for you, because the story isn't that in depth and it kind of ends suddenly. So, it's not exactly the kind of thing where you'll be like really into the story. But if you just like a good kind of mindless beat 'em up with an interesting group of characters and, a passable story, then Code of Princess is a good game for you. I had a lot of fun with it, so I played through with every character. So if that gives you an idea of like how fun it is, like I played through the same stages over and over with multiple characters, and it was still fun. So that says a lot for how good the game is. But what was that, number 8? So number 7 here, back to Sega. So every time, I know people who are fans of Sega, there's kind of like a type of Sega fan that's like the Sonic fan, I guess. I say that not like people who are solely fans of Sonic, but people who think, when they think of Sega, they think of Sonic. And those people inevitably are disappointed every year when some terrible Sonic game comes out, and they're not incredibly happy with it. But I am not a Sega fan because of Sonic. I'm a Sega fan for things like this. This is Kurohyo 2, or Black Panther 2 on the PSP, and this game is probably one of my favorite PSP games probably ever. It's great. The story is great. The fighting in this game is great, and it's better than the main series. Like, in my opinion, it's better than the main series because you have a lot more options for your character than a regular Yakuza game. And this one, it's more focused on fighting, so it makes sense that the fighting is really good. But it does have an interesting story, and the characters are likable, and it's the same kind of Yakuza formula. So you have lots of submissions and lots of interesting characters and lots of kind of convoluted story twists and turns, which is interesting and fun. So this series, the first one and this one, are probably never going to get an English release. But seriously, this series is spectacular. I cannot wait for a 3 to come out. I hope a 3 comes out, and I hope it comes out on the Vita, actually, because that'll be a day one buy, just like this one was a day one buy. And of course, this is like the kind of quality that Sega puts out. And it's sad that like most people won't get to play it because it was only released in Japan and probably won't be released outside of Japan. But Sega is really killing it with some good games, but a lot of them just get overlooked or don't get looked at. And this is sadly going to be another one of those, because it's a great game. Anybody who plays it, I think, would really enjoy it because the characters really grab you, the story really gets you involved, and it's just Sega goodness. This is anyone who complains about Sega not being good, point them right towards this series because it's spectacular every time. All right, so we're down to number 6. This one was kind of a dark horse. It's Tokyo Jungle. And this came out in the US as a download only, but in Japan it was an actual disc. So Tokyo Jungle. And I got this day one, and I got special downloadable content for pre-ordering it. But this is kind of like it's similar to a roguelike RPG in that, you kind of die and start back over from level 1 with a new character entirely. But it's different from that in that there's not really weapons to level up, and there's not like anything you lose when you die. You're just kind of an animal running around Tokyo, avoiding wacky stuff. It's not always wacky stuff too, but like some situations become wacky when there's like special instances where there's like hundreds and hundreds of cats battling in one section of the city, or like dinosaurs or robot dogs and stuff. Like it's pretty interesting because you get a lot of interesting situations in this game, and you'll find like when you can use all types of different animals. So like there's lots of times where you'll spend a lot of time running around unlocking animals and doing special missions inside quests with other animals so that you can unlock more stuff. And if that sounds fun to you, like running around as an animal doing animal things like hunting for animals or running away from predators and eating plants, or you know kind of trying to find an animal mate, marking territory and stuff, it's pretty fun. Even if you think like that doesn't sound fun, you should at least try it out, because I'm sure it's really cheap on PSN, $10 or $15, and that's totally worth it, because this game has hours and hours of gameplay for a cheap price, and it's actually a lot of fun. Everybody I've had at my house playing it has enjoyed it. People who don't play games were like thinking it was totally awesome. So if you get a chance, definitely check out Tokyo Jungle, because everybody has fun with it, and it's wacky enough that like people who enjoy kind of like weird games will enjoy it, or people who enjoy like cute animals will enjoy it, and people who enjoy like kind of crazy, like there's like stealth elements, like and kind of hunting elements, and it's got a lot of stuff in it for everybody, and I think it's the kind of thing that people should really play. So I'm glad it actually came out for everybody to play, because this was a lot of fun. So, okay, we're moving on to number 5, and this is a game that most people had on their list, and I don't actually have a game box for it, so I'm just going to hold up something else in its place, but The Walking Dead. So this is actually the DVD of the first season, or it's the Blu-ray of the first season, but I have yet to watch this. I've never seen the series, and I bought this specifically because of the great downloadable game that actually has a physical release, but I didn't buy that. It didn't come out in Japan. But I downloaded each story as they came out, and I was always waiting for like a month and a half in between, like eagerly awaiting the next one to come out. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of people gave this like their game of the year, Walking Dead, but I don't, I thought it was a good game. I had a lot of glitches in mine when I was playing, where like the camera would freak out and I couldn't see what I was doing, and I had to like kind of like reset or restart the chapters. And the story was interesting, though. It's it's kind of like the illusion of choice, and that like everything ends up the same way regardless of what you choose. So it didn't make me want to play through it again, but what I did play through was freaking awesome. Like, the story is great and the characters are great, but it's the kind of thing you can only really play once. And I guess you could play it through again, but the changes don't seem to be all that much. Like, I started playing through a second time, and I'm making opposite choices, but it didn't really change the story so much. Like, it changed what people said and how people reacted to you, but the overall story was the same, and I didn't really feel like it, after doing that, I didn't feel like it was as great a game as I thought it was, but that's why it's only number 5. But it is a fun game, and I definitely recommend people play it, because especially that it's so cheap. Like, it was half off or something on if you downloaded it. So that was like, I don't know, $10 or $15 or something to get the whole game, and that's totally worth that. It's totally I paid full price for everything, but it was totally worth it, and no problem paying whatever $25 to play The Walking Dead, because it was great. And it was a good download. But yeah. So, Walking Dead, number 5. But number 4, this one is another one that surprised me, and I only kind of bought it on a whim. Like, it wasn't something I was researching or planning to buy, and I just bought it because like I was bored and I was looking for a kind of first-person dungeon crawler to play, and this was the only one that was out that I hadn't like really either decided I didn't want to play, or that I hadn't already played. So, and that game is Lost Heroes. And Lost Heroes here is a crossover between Kamen Rider, Ultraman, and Gundam, but it's a first-person dungeon crawler, and you get a lot of. I'm really was surprised by this game because it's got like everything you could possibly want out of a good first-person dungeon crawler. It like takes all the elements from first-person dungeon crawlers and kind of puts it into like a perfect system. I think like it's really good. So you've got character customization that's really nice. You got kind of skill trees for everybody that actually matter, and I say that because it matters. Like you can do special team moves with other characters, so you have to like level up your skill tree based on the characters you want to use in your party. So some characters have special strong attacks with other characters, and if they're not in your party, you're just kind of wasting your skill tree points by upgrading that stuff. So you have to actually think about your characters and your party kind of build. And it's also, the story isn't like crazy interesting or anything, but it's interesting enough to kind of keep you going. And it would probably be more interesting if I were a fan of Kamen Rider or Ultraman or Gundam at all, which I know nothing about any of those. But this game was actually like really fun, even though I'm not into any of those characters. So it was actually pretty cool to kind of get a glimpse of this stuff. And another thing I wanted to mention about this game is that the sound effects are spectacular. And I say that because they're like totally like 1970s tokusatsu sound effects. Like if you hear them, you'll know exactly what I mean. It's like totally 70s Japanese monster TV show sound effects, and they nail it perfectly. So like you get a lot of like kind of it feels really good when you're playing it. So like when the characters jump out on screen and do a special attack, like it has accompanied with this sound effects that you'd expect from like those kind of 70s TV shows, and I thought like that was a spectacular addition. And frankly, this was probably one of the best first-person dungeon crawlers I've played recently, and it's probably better than Soul Hackers was even. And Soul Hackers is a good game, but it's also like 10 or 15 years old, but this takes all the kind of more modern additions to the genre and adds them all in to make it like really interesting and a real like fun to play first person dungeon crawler. So this one ranked really high on my list, and I can't like recommend it enough, except it's never ever getting an English release, but it was spectacular. There's also a PSP version, but for first person dungeon crawlers, like the 3DS is really a great system. I mean, as far as the setup goes, at least. So 3DS I bought mine on. But okay, so number 3, another game that made a lot of people's lists, which was surprising for me too, because I used to play this game actually on the PC a long time ago, and not this specific one, but the second in the series. But I'll talk about that in a little bit. But the game itself, XCOM Enemy Unknown, is like a shocker for me. Not that because I didn't think it was going to be good, but because when I heard that XCOM was being remade as a first-person shooter, anytime I saw XCOM news, I just kind of blocked that stuff out. I was just like, oh, you bastards ruined another good game. And like I said, I used to play this on the PC back in the mid-90s or so. And, XCOM was something I really enjoyed. And when they said there's going to be the first-person shooter of XCOM, I thought, well, okay, I'm not even interested anymore. Just cross that off my list. But then, after this came out and people were talking, I saw somebody making a video about it, and somebody I'm subscribed to, so I just watched it, and I saw, like, wait, that's not a first-person shooter, that's like a strategy game. what I thought it was a first-person shooter, but it's a not. So when I saw that it was actually a strategy game, I was like, that's just like XCOM. I gotta get that. So of course I got it, and of course it's spectacular. It's such a great game. It gets like really nostalgic for me to play it, but it's also like updated for the new generation. And this game showed up on a lot of people's lists, and there's a reason for that because it's great. It's like apparently they made it on a rush schedule too, but Firaxis is like a company that knows their stuff. I think they're a great company. They make a lot of great games, and this is just another one to their list because this one, good stuff. And the I what I hope they do next is that I hope they make a remake of the second game in the series, which is the one I used to play a lot, which is also on the PS1. It's XCOM. What is it? Uh, I'm forgetting the subtitle for it. Terror from the Deep or something. Terrors from the Deep, and it's based on like a H.P. Lovecraft monsters, the deep ones attacking from the oceans instead of from space, which is awesome. And it's more like kind of horror based, which is kind of cool for me. So I hope they remake that one next. I hope they just straight up use the same idea because that would be awesome. I'd be buying that straight first day when the XCOM first person shooter comes out. Not buying it, but this, if they make a sequel, I'm all over it. So, last two. So, more Sega on this list. So out of 10 games, 3 games were made directly by Sega, and 3 of them were made by the same studio at Sega. That's Ryuga Gotoku Studios. Number 2 here for 2012, Yakuza V, or Ryuga Gotoku 5. And this game was spectacular. Like, the whole series is amazing. Like, the Yakuza series, I've said it a million times before, but the reason I bought a PS3 was to play Yakuza. And I've not been disappointed. Even if I bought no other games for the PS3 besides Yakuza, I would be totally happy with my PS3 purchase, because this series is one of the best current gen series. Straight up, I can't think of very many that are better. As far as my favorite game series go, this is easily in the top 5. And you know, this game especially was so full of stuff to do. You had so many options. If you like action RPGs, this one is like, it's perfect because there's so much stuff to do that there's no grinding in this game. It's an RPG that literally gets rid of grinding. It gets rid of grinding, but it also doesn't shorten the length of the game. So it took me 90 hours to beat this game. I didn't know there's no grinding. I don't have to run around and just beat up random enemies to get experience. There's so much stuff to do to get experience that, like, you can just do side missions, do regular missions. You can go around town. You get experience for like dating hostesses at hostess clubs. You get you can do kind of activities like throughout the town, like batting cages and play games. You can play Taiko no Tatsujin and Virtua Fighter 2 with online battling in the game. So there's so much stuff to do to gain experience and to get new moves and get new actions. Well, heat actions in this game, but you get so much stuff to do, and it's so good. The stories are all expanded, so there's a main story, and each character has their own special side story, which is specific to them. So there's a special story that's related to each character. So it's like having one overarching RPG with 5 mini RPGs in it, which is so good. There's like so many missions that are like classic Sega too. You have Kiryu has his taxi driving missions, which play out like races for such as like a Daytona almost. It's like playing a Daytona game. And Haruka has her missions, which are like playing Hatsune Miku games, which like it's kind of like a rhythm music game. And you have like the kind of baseball game with the new character, and you have a like hunting and fishing with Saijima, and it's there's just so much interesting stuff going on that you never run out of stuff to do in this game. It's just so fun. And like I said, it took me over 90 hours to beat it, and I don't even think I got to like 60% completion, and that's like pretty crazy. And I never got tired of the game. I never got, like felt like I'm bored with this. I'm tired of playing it. I just wanted to continue, keep on playing, and keep on playing. And that's like the sign of a great game. And this one especially, like even after you clear it, there's lots of extra stuff to do that I haven't even gotten around to, like all types of kind of special missions and special like challenge levels, and it's just so expansive and so great, and all the characters are great, the story is great, you get really into it, and really, Yakuza 5, if it comes out in English, you have to buy it. It's like a must-buy game, and I'm really glad I bought it and played through it. It's easily one of the best games probably this generation. It's just great. This whole series is really great, so this one, really spectacular. And that brings us to my top game of 2012. And I think a lot of people will not be surprised by my choice for top game of 2012. But, yeah, you probably guessed it. It's Persona 4. Now, Persona 4, the gold in here. And I was saying earlier when I did my mentions in the beginning, like Persona 2 and Soul Hackers were ports, so I wouldn't add them in the list. But Persona 4 the Golden is kind of a port, but it's less like a port and more like Persona 4.5. There's so much extra content and so much different from the Persona 4 on the PS2 that you really feel like you're playing kind of like an expanded version of the game. It's not like one small part is new. Like the new content is interspersed and interwoven into the story throughout the entire thing. So you get a lot of content that's new. It really feels like you're playing like the real version of the game, and like the PS2 version, while spectacular, is like the kind of unfinished version, because this one has like all types of new story elements, all types of new places and locations. You have like new types of jobs and things you can do after school. You have all types of new stuff going on. So it's if you've played Persona 4 and you liked it, you still have a reason to play this because there's so much extra content that's new, which makes it feel like a new game, or at least a new game with kind of an updated version of the old game. And I mean that's what it is. It's not a straight up port. If anyone claims that Persona 4 the Golden is a port and it's the games on the Vita are ports, then they haven't played this game, or they haven't played the PS2 original, because if you've played the PS2 original and you've played this one, you know that there's so much extra content that it's like a new game. It's definitely expanded enough to be great. And if you've never played Persona 4, this is the definitive version. There's no better version than this. It looks crisp. The story, I mean, the Vita port of this, it's the best. It's the best version, straight up. I had so much fun with this game. I maxed out my levels for every character. I played 108 hours, I think, to clear all the special dungeons and all the, try to fuse all the demons and fuse things the way I wanted to make like my ultimate party at the end. It was pretty awesome. I had a lot of fun with this, and it's the kind of thing where like Yakuza that I mentioned before, this game grabs you with the story, grabs you with the characters, and you get really, really invested. You really care about everybody. You care about all your party members, and you care about the social links, and you care about what happens. I mean, I can think of a lot of times where I really cared, like I was really like I'm moved or something by the by the story that's happening in this game. So, you know, when something bad happens to someone, I'm feeling really bad, and something good happens, I feel really happy. And it's the kind of game that, like, it's like an emotional roller coaster for real. Like, you really get into it. And that's like one of the beautiful things about this series in general, is that the characters and the story are so well put together and so great that you really are invested. You really care. And that's a reason why this series is so popular, why people get really into it, is that it's just so good with the characterization and how they make you care. Because, you know, in a regular game, like, even something good like you know, Mass Effect is a good series, but you know, I don't really care about all the characters, and I don't care what happens to everybody. In this, I care what happens to everybody. I care what happens to the dogs. I care what happens to the fox. I care what happens to everybody, and it's kind of amazing that way. So if you have a Vita, get this game. If you don't have a Vita, get a Vita and get this game. It's totally worth it. But I'm going to run out of time here. This is a really long video. But, yeah. So that will be the end of my top 10 videos for 2020, my top 10 games for 2012. So, yeah. If you guys have a list, link me to it or something if you don't think I've seen it. Or, you know, just comment below with your top games of 2012. I'm always interested to hear about that kind of stuff. So, just in case I missed some stuff too, which is always possible. So, thanks for watching if you watched this ridiculously long top 10 video. I'll catch you guys next time.